From the star-studded Ocean's 8, after the success of Ocean's 11, to a gender-swapping movie that even Helen Mirren couldn't save. These are movie gender swaps that led to disasters at the box office. Even a ton of star power and a classic heist couldn't save Ocean's 8. Film star Sandra Bullock plays Danny Ocean's sister, Debbie, and she puts together a team of skilled thieves to steal a rare diamond necklace from a conceited actress played by Anne Hathaway. And let me just say that the team Debbie puts together is something else. I'm talking Cate Blanchett, Helena Bonham Carter, Mindy Kaling, Sarah Paulson, Rihanna, and Awkwafina, all superstars in their own right, and rightfully ticking off the representation boxes too. Many fans of heist movies hold the Ocean's franchise in high regard, and Steven Soderbergh's masterpieces are often referred to as works of art in filmmaking circles. So when Warner Brothers announced a female-centric version, some fans were hesitant, thanks to Hollywood's history of gender swapping, and it turns out that their concerns were valid. Although Ocean's 8 grossed over $200 million, it failed to meet audience expectations by a long shot. The plot was lackluster, and the subplot seemed totally pointless, which was a disappointment to those expecting a true Ocean's movie. There were gaping plot holes, which the script tries to cover up with comedy, but it doesn't quite work. And the only silver lining was the chemistry between the cast. I have to admit that was stellar. Since the heist takes place during the Met Gala, the fashion in the film is worth watching out for and impossible to ignore. Critics on Rotten Tomatoes gave it a 69% on the tomato meter, while the audience score was a disappointing 47%. So it's watchable, but also forgettable, much like the 2016 reboot of Ghostbusters. The 1984 original ended up becoming such a classic that it was almost a given that a reboot would not be treated kindly no matter what they did. And that's exactly what happened to the 2016 all-women reboot of the classic. Despite an impressive cast that included Kristen Wiig, Melissa McCarthy, Kate McKinnon, and Leslie Jones, the movie faced harsh criticism before it was even released. The studio tried everything to change people's minds, but unfortunately, some of the internet's meanest corners unleashed their hatred against the movie, and it felt like it wasn't fair how Ghostbusters was treated even before it had a chance to hit theaters. When the movie finally hit, the verdict was unanimous that the film wasn't great. It was too long and the humor fell flat, which was a shame because the production budget was massive. Everyone agreed that comedy queen Melissa McCarthy wasn't funny, and her voice was too nasally. Wiig was only marginally better. Jones did redeem the cast a little bit with her humor and street toughness, and it was mostly former SNL star Kate McKinnon who gave a standout performance in the film. The movie ended up making about $230 million worldwide, against a budget of about $140 million. So financially speaking, it was a box office bomb, because once the theaters took their revenue cut, the loss amounted to $70 million. Another gender swap disaster was 2019's The Hustle, and I'll get this out of the way right now. The Hustle is not a remake of the classic Paul Newman pool shark movie, The Hustler, which actually sounds like it could be a great candidate for a gender-swapped remake too. Instead, 2019's The Hustle is a remake of Dirty Rotten Scoundrel, with film stars Anne Hathaway and Rebel Wilson, taking over the con job that Steve Martin and Michael Caine pulled off in the original. The movie was a complete disaster, and even though it made $97 million at the box office, reviews from critics were overwhelmingly negative. To make matters worse, the studio later confirmed that the marketing costs and production budget combined were twice as much as the box office earnings. Ouch! Now that's what I call a flop. It's clear that Hathaway and Wilson were putting in an effort, but unfortunately they were not able to salvage the film. To be fair, most of the blame for The Hustle's failure goes to the terrible screenplay. The story meanders from one set piece to the next without any clear direction, and it leaves the audience feeling lost and disappointed, regardless of whether you see this version as a remake, a reimagining, or a lazy retread. The fact remains that it's unoriginal, uninspired, and a total waste of time, and fails to bring anything new or interesting to the table. After watching it, I wanted my 93 minutes back. Speaking of gender swap bombs that were a complete waste of time, I wouldn't be any good at my job if I didn't talk about 2020's American Pie Presents Girls Rules. Now this has got to be one of the most insane gender swaps ever, mostly because the original movies were also nothing more than a phase. And to be honest, now that I think about it, they were pretty bad. If you look past the crass sexual humor, the American Pie franchise is infamous for its raunchy and sexual humor, and the truth is that it had been successful for years with its basic plot idea. But with the release of American Pie Girls Rules, the franchise's fifth entry, it was clear that audiences became bored with a tired old formula. Despite attempts to switch things up with a female-centric story, the movie failed to bring anything fresh or unique to the table. But there's also another reason why it might have failed. The movie was directed by a man, written by two men, half the production team was male, and they were trying to do some kind of pop culture look at sexuality with an all-female cast. It was a recipe for disaster from the get-go. It might have helped if they had more women as part of the writing and production process, instead of just being pretty accessories to a barely there plot. So the whole thing turned out as tasteless as the original, if not worse. The movie has a 30% on the tomato meter and a brutal 3.9 on IMDb. Time to stop making American Pie movies, guys. Even the next movie on my list of Hollywood's gender swap fails is better than Girls' Rules. It's the 2019 remake of What Women Want, titled What Men Want, and Taraji P. Henson starred in the modern remake of the classic rom-com. The original version, which came out back in 2000 and starred Mel Gibson, was all about a sexist guy who gains the ability to hear women's thoughts and learns how to treat them better. In this updated version, Henson's character has the power to hear men's thoughts, which helps her navigate the male-dominated world of sports agencies. A fairly simple idea for a reboot, right? That's what Paramount and BET thought too. But somehow, it just didn't work. And the 2000 version about a sexist man actually turned out to be a better one, because this one didn't do any favors to the opposite gender. The original actually made women come out looking sophisticated and way smarter than men. Fast forward to 2019, and the movie confirms all the stereotypes about men, that they're power-hungry and simply crazy about It would have been the perfect opportunity to show a side of healthy masculinity and smash parts of the patriarchy at least. But nope, they decided to go with the same old binary opposition trope of men versus women. It clocked a 42% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, with one critic saying it wasn't an homage to the original, but a destruction of it instead. As usual, the main problem lay with the script. It was all over the place with too many subplots. But there was one gender-swapping movie that even one of the greatest actors of our time couldn't say. I'm talking about The Tempest, starring Helen Mirren. It's hard to imagine anyone better suited than her to tackle a gender-swapped Shakespearean role. And Helen did just that in Julie Taymor's stunning adaptation of The Tempest, playing the traditionally male role of Prospero. The film was a feast for the eyes and showcased Mirren's incredible talent as an actress. But even her tremendous talent couldn't save the film's lackluster plot and pacing. The only aspect of the film that did receive universal praise was its incredible costume design. In fact, costume designer Sandy Powell picked up her 9th Oscar for her work on the film. The movie struggled to find an audience, earning just $350,000 at the box office, and has a 30% rating on the tomato meter. One critic said the visuals were stunning, but the movie failed badly content-wise. Must take a special talent to make a bad film with Mirren and the Bard on your side. So, from a gender-swapping movie that even Helen Mirren couldn't save, to the star-studded Ocean's 8 after the success of Ocean's 11, those were movie gender swaps that led to disasters at the box office.